You're listening to Lender Lounge with Kevin Kim, a podcast dedicated to helping our listeners in the private lending industry grow, improve, and streamline their business. I'm Kevin Kim, partner at Fortra Law, the nation's largest private lending law firm. Join me as we chat with the best and brightest in private lending. They're eager to share their years of wisdom and best practices for lenders, brokers, borrowers, investors, and more. Subscribe to Lender Lounge on your favorite podcast platform and visit our website, fortralaw.com, to learn more about how we can help you scale. Check out the episode summary below for other valuable resources. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Lender Lounge with yours truly, Kevin Kim. Today, we have a guest that I consider a friend. He doesn't really need an introduction because you guys have all probably seen him on the multitude of webinars with Apple and his own stuff online. But I'm going to let him introduce himself. Okay. Scott, please tell us who you are.
Hey, thank you so much.
And let our audience know what it is that you do.
Yeah, right. I do it all, right? So thank you so much, Kevin. And actually, you know what? I'm so excited because this is the one show that I've always wanted to do.
Oh,
right?
Thank you.
So I'm dead serious because I'm so happy at the success you're having with this concept and this platform as it rolls out. And so now that I finally get to do one, I'm a little giddy, a little.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I'm the current CEO of Think Realty, and Think Realty, if anything, is really an education home base and kind of an ecosystem to help smooth the turbulent air for real estate investors through knowledge, connections, database, to be able to really cover all those kind of mystery points out there, because you know that there's 4 networks right now that run these types of investment real estate TV shows 24 hours a day, right? And many of them are years and years old, and it's a reality TV show, so there's no reality to it really. And so we kind of take the clear point view of really getting people the facts that they need, and really having so much in the way of education, true education and connection, to legitimize what they're really doing. Because it's one thing to understand something; it's another thing to actually know how to make the chocolate chip cookies, right? So that's really kind of what our specialty is. We've been around about 13 years, and we've got a database, a couple 100,000 now of subscribers and members that we reach out to. We do podcasts and we do webinars, as you know, and we've got an e-zine that we put out there, and we're going back to some pretty robust live events coming up here. And so we're real excited. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Now, you weren't always the CEO of Think, right? So
I was not.
You joined, I mean, my understanding is, give us the story there, because a lot of our folks, they've heard of Think Realty. They've, a couple of them have been to, I've been to a few things, but over the years, but, give our audience kind of the background there, because it's a pretty cool story.
Well, thank you. I'll start it off like I do in many of these interviews and stuff that I do. I got into private money investing. I got tricked into getting into it. I was going to do it as a side hustle to make some cash, like a lot of people that get into this. And this was about 27 years ago. And had I known that I'd be here all these years later, still in this business, in this industry that I love. I love it. Some people take to it like that. And I was one of those lucky ones. And I had great mentorship, right? But prior to that, I was a paramedic firefighter. I was a touring headline comic for the Improv. I was, a lot of different stuff. I did reality TV shows myself. I was a bartender. I was a bar manager. Tried to make a run at playing golf for a hot second. Some delusions of grandeur there, right? And so, coming through that and is kind of a skinny kid that grew up and hails from Lansing, Michigan originally. Diehard Michigan State fan, go green. I moved out to California, and that's really kind of where I was really lucky and got into this with a father-son company right in Southern California, right down there by your guys' office. And really, I was really fortunate, the mentorship thing on that, to learn from guys that were really ethical, very solid in the space. I often tell everybody that I've never been sued. I've never been sanctioned. I wear that like a badge of honor, especially coming out of 2008, right? Because there were a lot of guys that cut corners and stuff like that. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And so that's kind of what our mission statement is to really bring back that old school mentorship and help people for the sake of helping people, not trying to dip into their pocket.
Right. And so what brought you to Think? Because I think it's really focused on the investor side, the real estate investor side, right? So the folks that are swinging the hammers and investing in the real estate. Your background in our industry is more on the lending side. So how did that happen? Because it was, I had known you through lending, right? And, you had become a client and all that fun stuff as a lender. But, when the announcement was made that you and your group were acquiring Think, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And, and I know you guys have been very close with Linda and her team at AAPL. So like, how did that all, like, what was the thesis behind the acquisition and going in that direction?
I flipped 70 houses myself, more than like 71. I've built 7 from the ground up. If I told my wife that we're going to do another spec house, I don't think I'd be here tomorrow, I tell you. But really kind of going through that exercise, sometimes it was incredibly painful, right, as it is. And other times it was awesome. And so those are the awesome test cases are the ones where you're like, oh, let's do this again, right? But they're not all that way. And so you got a 2-point question there. So first I'll answer it. Why did I go to this? Well, coming back from the lending side, well, the one thing that nobody really can put their finger on is exactly how do you borrow this money? How do you get these deals funded, right? And so one of the funds that I was working with in Southern California and in Northern California and in Nevada, one of the secrets to that was we would actually, our job for that and as lenders was to train people how to borrow our money. And that's where I think you gain loyalty in your clients to keep coming back to you because you're really helping them understand what they're getting into, how a deal is going to work, how they can profit, all of those things. It's a lot more to flipping a house than picking out a backsplash and putting in, velvet Elvis paintings and gold toilets.
Not anymore, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't, right? And you're not just automatically guaranteed, we're going to, put in a new backsplash. We just made $115,000. It doesn't work that way, guys.
Yeah.
So there was something on my heart that way to say, okay, listen, let's go with a broader reach because of the audience and the size of Think to be able to really get that message out there, number one. Number two, Linda and AAPL, Linda Hyde has been, you have mentors at different points in your life, right? And I'll say this to you right to your face, Kevin, you've been a mentor to me more than once in my career, right? And has saved my bacon repeatedly. Linda is one of those people that is a true fan of somebody that's going to roll their sleeves up, put the work in, act ethically, if anything else. And if she sees that and respects it, she'll do anything for those people. So she has been a friend of mine for over a decade now. She's a dear friend of mine and somebody that I go to for counsel on many occasions. And she's really instrumental in helping navigate some of the best practices to have a really rock solid association or a group of people as you're leading. It's different than when you're just leading a sales team of 8 people, right? When you have to reach out and get a cultivated, ethical and quality message out, right? There's nobody better than I don't think around that could do that than her.
Yeah. And she really does help at multiple layers of the industry, which is really very valuable, right? Because it's the small guy that's getting started in lending that really needs the support. And it's not just about selling loans, right? It's way more than that. I give them a lot of credit for helping those guys out.
Totally. And she's constantly coming up with new ideas. Right. And so she wants to get education that matters out there and like the credentialing, right? Right. I think that especially, the program that you did was phenomenal. I've referred it out to so many people. They've taken it. It actually works to explain it in a way that people can understand, right? The new programs that she's coming out for making, kind of an official type of training with the industry's best leaders for private money brokering. I think that's so important right now. I'll give you a prime example on some numbers, right? Because we're numbers guys. I taught it when I first got into it, we were going around the country and teaching private money brokering. There were 6 companies at that time that were doing it. And so I did it for a year. At the end of that year, there was about 49 different companies. Now, 18 months later, just take a guess on how many numbers.
I would say hundreds now, because I hear there's classes at like Bigger Pockets events now.
Yeah, they're everywhere. It's 209, and that's what we can track. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other stuff we have no idea that's going on out there.
Right.
So and we talk about this a lot, and you talk about this when you speak and stuff about the litmus test in the bar of really kind of looking at who's playing in this space now. Because for a long time, if you had a 69 Cadillac and you had a bag full of trash, you could be a private money lender, you could be a hard money lender, right?
You do.
But it's not like that anymore. And I think that now both investors that want to place their money, whether it be on an individual trust deed or private mortgage or into a fund, are looking to make sure that there's a captain's license up on the bridge, right? And that there's some type of education because 20 years in a specific business isn't going to cover it anymore. There's got to be something a little bit more than that, a harder litmus test. And so I think one of the things that we do, and married in with AAPL, is really pushing that to really legitimize the education and the quality of professionalism and ethics that are out there.
So that raises an interesting question, right? Because on the real estate investor side, right, the community building associations and organizations that exist, right? I've tried to get involved in some respects in various different parts of my career. And what I notice, at least some of these things, is that you have what I would call, they're not even speculators, they're like hobbyist investors is kind of the best way I can put it, right? Like these people have full-time day jobs. They work 50 hours a week and they're trying to learn how to do their first flip or their first rental. And they're being taught by folks that really, it feels like a room full of we joke around, it's like a room full of dentists and doctors who are just trying to like get their first deal done.
Yeah.
And then you have a room, that caters to those types of borrowers, right? Because they're borrowers too. And so you have lenders in the room as well. And that seems to me to be like the larger audience that we see at these real estate events and these real estate associations. Is that kind of who Think is catering towards, or is Think much more like the guy who does this full time or is trying to go full time?
Well, that's a great point because we try to be as agnostic as possible, right? And so we're reaching out to everybody so that hopefully our education has a little bit of, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's like a golden corral, right? You want roast beef? We got that. You want fried chicken? We got that. You want pudding before you have the ham? Knock yourself out. So I think that one of the specialties on that, though, is really giving accurate, real-time intel on what's going on in the market, because our market and our industry, I think over the last 5 years has gone through massive change, maybe 6 years, because of the attitude towards funds now, the attitude of long-term paper. Think about that, man, because when we got into this, there was no DSCR loan, right? There was, it was 12 months, 18 months, and that was it. And there was a huge
the conventional market was your solution, right? That was your takeout.
So we were the kind of the little car before you got the big sedan, and everybody rode around in us until they got to the auto dealership and then could jump out to a conventional loan, a bit better pricing, and that was the model.
Right.
And now everybody's kind of cross-pollinating. So in those rooms or in our audience, we see everybody, and I mean this, from people that are in certain institutions that follow this, right, is trying to think of what happens, for life after baseball, to very, very savvy investors that are looking to network and find out who's doing what. So much like you'd read a trade, circular, a newspaper, or the journal, or something along those lines, they're looking to that to find out what could be trending, and they're trying to read the tea leaves, is who's going to do what in what part of the business. So, we're like the depths of the ocean, and I think this industry is too, because you get the little guys up top that are floating around with their little rubber raft, and then you've got the big, nuclear submarines that are down in deeper waters, very quietly running, and they're trying to gain as much intel as they can.
So, what sets Think apart? I mean, Think's been around for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And it's always had that education and that ethics component to it, much like AAPL, and the audience is there's been a lot of clients that we know have played in both camps, but what differentiates it from, say, the other groups out there, like the bigger pockets of the world, right? Or the other mastermind groups that exist?
Well, that's great. And I wanted it to be different, right? Because everything's got to grow or get stale, right? And so in that, what we did over the last year, since taking over, we've launched a couple of new initiatives. One is going to be Think Business, because it's one thing for you to be able to watch a, flipping show, right? But there's, what we're in is we're in a business. And so if you don't set that business up properly, and you've got tax implications, or you don't do your filings properly, or you're wanting to work in states that you have no idea what those regulatory compliance guidelines are, you're going to run into some problems, right? So we launched kind of a specialty program that we're doing now. We're working with some people on that to really structure their business, because let's say that somebody is transitioning. We see a lot of people, Kevin. I don't know if you're seeing this on your end out there on the West Coast, but having been on both coasts for many years, we're starting to see, especially out here on the, in the Sun Belt and stuff like that, a lot of people that are transitioning because, let's say they came down from Cleveland, Madison, whoever, and have to go back up north, and they don't want to go back to Cleveland. They want to stay in Tampa, right? And so they're transitioning. So they're smart people, but they don't understand financing and what has to do for reporting, if they're going to lend money, what the implications are for that, all kinds of stuff like that. So you've got that. So Think Business is a big initiative on that side. We've relaunched the podcast across all the channels and iHeart and Apple and all that stuff to really kind of reach people where they are. They're a very robust social media, a live deal desk that we're doing too, so that, people can call and say, what do we do on this? How can we get this across the line? We're expanding the partnership deal because I love trades guys. I love trades guys. And nobody embraces the trades guys. Everybody either wants the money or the borrower. But somebody's got it, if you got the Bucks and you got Buck Rogers, somebody has to build and fly this spaceship.
And that's where the risk lies, right? So that's from a lender's perspective.
You better believe
they're really careful about, like, they see a certain contractor on a deal, they're going to have a lot of problems with that borrower. Mm-hmm. And they know that ahead of time. And that's something that's overlooked like crazy.
Well, and I think that, being able to do that and guide people into really having them understand, let's say that you're a dental hygienist. I'm using this is a real life case. Brilliant woman, master's degree, very educated, very affable, super friendly, all of this stuff. Can look at your teeth and tell you right now, where you have a cavity, and she hasn't even looked in your mouth yet, right? And she knows what she knows. And she was in that trade for a long time. And she's married. Unfortunately, her husband passed unexpectedly, but had a very big benefit that came to her, and so wanted to do something with that. But she doesn't know how to read a construction budget. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're going to do a root canal, that's the girl you want in the chair next to your endodontist, but doesn't mean that she's going to understand how much it costs to build a deck or re-roof a house, right? And so I think that you've got a lot of smart people that just need some guidance there, and really kind of helping them to understand the trades and highlight the trades, because skilled trades guys, man, they're the ones that make all this happen.
Yeah.
I can have an idea. I mean,
and quality is becoming rarer and rarer, right?
It is, and especially down here. And so all the houses that I've flipped, I can still look at an electrical panel, and I'll tell you right now, I have no idea.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let the electrical guy do it. As my grandfather used to say, let the tuba guy play the tuba. Okay.
Right.
So it's just not my thing. So I think that's really another thing that really kind of starts to highlight that. And then,
so you're providing those kind of tactical resources to these newer investors, which is great.
Yeah.
Otherwise they get scammed by the local shady contractor that just takes them for a lap, So
that's right. And so best practice and also highlighting people that are doing things the right way in the business. Like you do, right? You're selective on who you work with. And you're also selective on who you talk to and all of that. And everybody knows that about you. And it's one of the things that sets you apart. And so when we really highlight people, I want to really give an attaboy to people that are doing stuff the right way.
That's great.
So and
you're giving case studies to the new guys, which is great.
Absolutely.
To use.
Yeah. Saying, because would you say, let me ask you your advice on this, your question, your opinion. Mentorship seems to be a lost art lately, man.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with mentorship is that it's really conducive to like the mastermind communities. They're smaller, right? I see a lot of it happening at the mastermind, like the smaller masterminds.
Sure.
Because it's like, 20 guys in a room, right? And then that works. But when you're like a big event, it's hard because your ideas are, you're thinking, I'm coming here to get deals done. I'm coming here to find, vendors and resources. Right. You're not thinking I'm looking for a mentor. And the smarter lenders that I know and real estate sponsors that I know, like kind of who are starting out, they ask, like, who should I look up to, right? Who's a good one I should look up to? And I try to connect them because there's certain guys out there that are very generous with their time and very good mentors, and they're willing to help. And there's a lot of that they're willing to do, but it requires a smaller, intimate setting. And it's hard to achieve that at a big event. And all we go to are big events, right? So it's kind of hard.
Totally, right? Because you and I are like, we'll see each other at a trade. You're like, then, hey, all right, I'll call you. I'll see you in 5 minutes. And it might be 6 hours before we run back into each other.
And it's chaos too, especially at like AEPL. It's like 1,000 people. So it's just unbridled chaos. So you're just trying to get as much done as possible. Whereas a smaller, intimate setting, which I think can do, because the real estate folks are much more interested in that, right? Lenders are less interested in that, I feel like, but real estate folks are very interested in like intimate settings and idea sharing and really all that. So
Well, I tell people all the time, had I not had the mentorship that I had from Dan Senior, Dan Junior, I would not be who I am today. Right. I still use that stuff, more than a quarter of a century later.
Well, that goes back to you though, right? So like that's the challenge I feel like today is that a lot of folks don't want to go work for somebody else.
They don't, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's a lost art because you've got to be able to I don't know the word or the phrase that I want to use, but you've got to be able to really bring somebody with you and hold. And mentorship is not a conversation while two people are standing at the bar ordering a beer.
No,
right?
No. It's a partnership if you think about it, right? At its core.
There's a ton of people out there in our industry that want to do that. They just don't know how to do it. So then no one's going to come out and go, I think I'm going to become a mentor. I mean, true mentors don't usually say that. You'll never hear a mentor say, I'm going to go mentor now. They don't do that. Right. Yeah. But there's a lot of guys that want to do it. And I haven't figured it out yet. I'm going to figure out a way to try to.
It's a two-way street too, right? Like there has to be a willingness to reach out to your mentee and be like, hey, let's sit down and have a scheduled meeting every 2 weeks or whatever it is.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm not going to do it. And otherwise you're not going to care. Right. And there's that part of it. There has to be the intentionality and accountability to it. But like the hard part about it, I feel like is the best mentorship would be actually you're in the office with them and learning from them.
It's gotta be. That's the only way that I didn't talk to my first client for 5 months.
But in today's landscape, it's so hard for people to actually, like, I guess you can call it swallow their pride and go do that. And on the lending side, it's never become easier to start doing deals, right? Because there's just so many correspondent programs out there now.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, and it wasn't that way, right? The market was so shady. You couldn't, not shady, but smoky. You couldn't figure out your way through it because it was just so fragmented and everyone did it different ways and no one understood how they got borrowers and it was just very local and that's when apprenticeship really works, right? And when the market is the way it is today, where it's just so robust and so much more commoditized, it's so much easier to start out and just start brokering deals and all of a sudden, in a year or two, you're on your own just doing all this crazy money. And it's bonkers because a lot of those folks, they could probably use a couple of years of mentorship because they can learn sales. They'll learn sales somewhere and they'll go off breaking on that, but they don't learn underwriting. And it's just like, wow, man, they don't learn credit. And it's like, man, I kind of wish you learned it because you're making those mistakes and you're getting these buybacks. And now you're freaking out as a lender, right? Or as a broker. On the real estate side, I think it's partially because of a lot of these, I hate to use the phrase, it's overused nowadays, but these gurus, and they make these folks think that it's so simple, right?
Yeah, it's not.
I remodeled my house and it was so hard, right? How can you imagine building one? It was, and I didn't do much. I just painted it in floors and I was like, this is so much work, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Think about that, pulling permits and everything else, right?
So, yeah, and so there's that component where there needs to be that level of quality to how this education looks. But yeah, I agree with you. Mentorship is a lost art in today's community, and
I would tell people too that are thinking about getting into this business, or thinking about getting into this even as a side hustle or whatever. Here's how it went for my training, right? I didn't talk to a client, if I remember correctly. I think it was about 5 months. They trained me on everything first, title, how to read an appraisal. And they would touch me in the office, you know what I mean? About how to cultivate leads. Because back then there was no, we didn't have any Facebook or there was this, literally.
Elementics didn't exist. Forecasta didn't exist.
Right. There's no AI. There was a fax machine that we used to help 10 numbers for real.
You go to the courthouse steps and you find the borrowers.
I'm serious, I went on a few appraisal rides with this guy that chain smoked cigars, right? And you told great stories, but we'd be driving all over, the Inland Empire, and I was holding tape and he didn't want to, he's an older guy. He didn't want to get up on the ladder. So I'm up in the ladder taking, Polaroid pictures of some of the stuff, the insulation, literally a Polaroid camera. I would go in and I would spend an afternoon or a couple of days at a title office.
Yeah.
Right. To really understand it, because there's so many moving parts. It's not just, we're going to buy it for this. They're going to throw us the money. We're going to rehab it. And then woohoo, in a half an hour, it's all, we're all set. Yeah. And we just made $150,000 and it was really easy. Let's do 10 of these next time. Yeah. So
that raises the interesting question, right? Like I always ask this question to folks in your position because there's a lot of people that still want to do this as kind of a side hustle. I call it a hobby, right? And they think it's a way to get rich, right? They think it's a way to make money, and they think it's a way to like build this. I hear this all the time, like passive income. Like there's no such thing as passive income, right?
Oh my God.
And like, but and I felt this way, especially when I went to my very first Bigger Pockets. I'm like, none of you should be doing this. Like in my head, I didn't want to be judgmental, but I was like, guys, just go invest in a fund or invest in a note or something. Like it's just so much work. And you all have full-time jobs. If I was your boss, I'd be so pissed at you, right? Like, that raises the question: should these folks be jumping in the way they do? Right? I don't know. It's hard to take. Also, we love the small guy, right? We want the small guy to come in and become the next Kiawe. Like, but at the same time, it's harder and harder in today's market, right? And so it's now an open question because in private lending, but also in 1 to 4 family investing, it's become so institutionalized that it raises the open question: should that dental hygienist come in or not? Is there room for her? And if there is, like, what's the pathway now? You know,
the answer on that's pretty simple. There's a good portion of people that shouldn't, and I agree with you on that, right? Because they're fantasizing, is what it is. It's fantasy. That it is as easy as they think it is on TV. And those are the same people that buy the magic whatever at the swap meet, right? And think that, that this sponge is going to clean every surface in the house in perpetuity for $9 and it removes stains and repaints your walls and makes omelets, right? And so there's a good number of people that probably shouldn't without some type of mentorship on the flipping side as well. It's one thing to for mentorship and lending and all that for, because of the legal thresholds and all that kind of stuff, obviously there. But it is not as easy as it looks like it is on TV. And I can tell you one mistake can cost you dearly, and they're playing with real money. So my suggestion is how to eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And I tell this to people all the time. Don't think that you're going to go and rehab a 6,000 square foot mansion on a cliff in Malibu and make $1 million and solve all your problems, because the industry just does not work that way. And if you think that you're going to go out and set the world on fire, I love that. I'm enthusiastic for you as well, but you have to have a healthy dose of realism in that and know that nobody starts at the top and there is no elevator to the top. You want to get to the top, you got to take the stairs.
Right.
And so,
you got to take your licks. You're gonna have a bad deal.
I mean, as many. And how long have we been in this business? And the last 3 houses that we did not do well on.
Yeah,
and that's me.
And that's the scary part. I don't think I understand is like, guys, you can be underwater in a heartbeat, and that means that you're going to be. That means you're going to have to either file BK or you're going to have to deal with a judicial foreclosure and a potential deficiency action against you. Like you have to. You're guaranteeing this loan. Like this is not like some kind of, conventional 30-year mortgage, right? And so that's the scary part is I don't think they understand that. They hear non-recourse and they just go, all right, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I got a doctorate level education and workout deals in 2008, right? And, I think that people don't understand that you're talking about real long-term ramifications if things go sideways, right? And also, if you're, know that if you're going to go out there and play in the big deals in the deep water, I don't know who started this, and I know that there's ways to do it creatively, but in realistic terms, you cannot go and buy a 208-unit apartment building with none of your own money.
No.
Right? Well, people all the time, they're like, I don't need any money to do this. I'm like, I don't know.
That was the number one thing I heard when I went to my very first kind of real estate investor event was, they knew I represented lenders, and I was like, how can I help you? And they're like, I need 100% financing. It's out there, right? I'm like, oh my God.
I'm not your dad.
I'm like,
right?
The scary part is, though, like if you look at the market today, I think they're right in some respects. 90-100 is kind of common, right? And so
that's tight. That's the thin margin, man. That's, you know what I mean? That's right up against
at the same time, the hobbyist first-time flipper probably shouldn't borrow 90-100, right?
No, and I think that
even if they do have a balance sheet for it, they could be incredibly wealthy, right?
Yeah.
They probably shouldn't borrow that kind of money.
Do a small one first. Do some kind of a cosmetic flip on a 3-2 that's, there's recipes and formulas so that you can eliminate some of that risk, like my 5 for 5, right?
Right. So this thing doing that is kind of like tempering their expectations a little bit and keeping them grounded in reality.
Yeah, because And we've got members where I do a daily call or a weekly call, right? And they'll get on and we'll talk about stuff like this. But for certain people in that program, they've got my personal number and they'll call all the time. And I make sure to set them up in the very beginning, just like I used to do with my borrowers. We call it the big 9 or the big 12. And it's a list of things, right? That says, okay, if you set your deal up this way, you should be able to get through the door with any lender.
Right.
Now, some lenders and things change in the industry and stuff like that, but those are going to be the 9 or the 12 things that are must-haves for a deal to actually work.
That's good.
It doesn't matter what the fantasy of your, as these guys are looking out there says, but you'll be able to do it that way. I'll tell you, who does really good training is Tesser. And I know you've had him on before.
Oh, yeah. Great. I mean, he's really good at educating his borrowers.
Man. And, he is, if anything, he is not. One of the things that we do at Think, and I'll give credit to a guy by the name of Jeremy Goodnight on this too, but also one of the things I learned from Tesla a long time ago is not, I'm here to help you, right? Because if you're coming in the house, Kevin, and you got your bags full of groceries, I'm like, oh, you need a hand? You're like, no, I got it, right? Like nobody wants the help thing. What people want nowadays, and this is our motto that we push out at Think, I will not let you fail. That's where it's at. Right?
But they have to be willing to ask for help.
Well, they do, and a lot of people have an ego kind of thing on that. But knowing how long I've been in this business, you've been in this business, we've seen some stuff, right? Have I seen everything? No, but I've seen a lot, right? And I think that my look down the road meter is pretty solid, right? We're like, well, I can see this coming, right? We've had those discussions. And so I think that really the whole metric on what everybody's looking for now in these newer investors is somebody to come up and go, I will not let you fail.
Yeah, I mean, I wish someone would have told me that this would have been a problem. I wish someone would have told me if I took 100% financing with a second on the ARV.
Well, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, or doing ARV loans and not holding back any ARV money, right? And they're like, oh, he'll figure it out. They'll get there, and you're like, you can't do it both ways, brother.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's
okay. Well, their first deal was a $3 million, 6-bed, like crazy mansion with a horse stall in the back. I'm like, what are you doing?
They're like, what could go wrong? Oh, I don't know. You ever pull environmentals? Who knows? It's a gas station, but yeah, okay, good luck with that. So
well, that's the other thing is that you start seeing folks in that would traditionally be more well suited for 1 to 4 family, now breaking into commercial real estate and not knowing, hey, by the way, single tenant retail is got concentration risk with your core tenant because you have one tenant. If Starbucks decides to say, hey, we're not gumming in anymore, well, you're kind of screwed, right? Because you just built the spec. Like, so, and Starbucks did that, right? They basically said, screw you guys, we're not going into these deals, right? And that happened. And so we've seen folks that took the leap both ways, right? But lately, I've been seeing lenders and investors take the leap into commercial real estate because they got burned in multifamily or 1 to 4 housing. I'm just like, oh boy. I guess this is what you need to ask a lot of questions before you jump in, and I don't know that they are.
Well, have you noticed this too? I'm starting to see some of this. Guys done 4, 5, 6 houses. Now they want to go from the borrower to being the lender.
That is so frequent.
Right. And so they're like,
frequent.
Well, because it's a lot of work, right? You bust your ass to try to flip these houses over.
They think they're going to make a lot of money too. It's a lot easier to make money, right? So it's like, boy.
I can tell you right now on little chip shot, little deals like that. And when did, I'm going to say this to you folks right now. And I've never been a fan of seconds. I'm still not a fan of seconds. Seconds are not the new black, right?
No.
For you to jump in on houses that are loans that aren't performing. I'll say it. Now, I'm sure there's probably people that are going to be like, what are you talking about? On my own personal opinion, I just think it's risky in today's market. I really do. But they're making a comeback.
And even at the institutional level, they're entertaining seconds, right? And so some are. But the difference maker is they have the wherewithal to take that risk, right?
Well, so they do. But somebody that's never lent money before.
Yeah. And so that's my question back to the lender is like, if you're doing, are you like, my question back is like, are you equipped financially to take this risk? Because if this goes sideways, you're not just you're not just wiped out. The force is coming after you, right? So that's just part of this. I don't think they understand how big a glass of milk that really is. It really is, right? And you're really left holding the bag. And they're, oh no, first buy me out. No, they're not anymore.
No.
And so that's And we see this all the time, not just in seconds. I mean, you could not believe the calls I would have. Like, it was like about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, until the middle of last year, was folks were financing stuff that wasn't financeable, right? And so like EMD financing. I'm like, what is this? And they're just like, well, we're doing this. It's high yield. I'm like, you can't finance that. Like it's a deposit. It's you're basically lending to someone who's broke.
That's right.
And so it's just one of those things where this market is so creative and there's so much froth behind it. I 100% agree. I mean, there's a reason why like 90% of lenders only do firsts.
Yes.
Right? In private lending, right? They don't touch a junior. And the 10% that do it well, they really only do it in very isolated circumstances.
Sure.
So like, I give a lot of credit to the guys who do it well. Like, our friends down the street at Valkyries, they do a lot of seconds and they do it well. And their investors can entertain the risk because their investors are very, very high net worth guys here in Newport Beach. So they're okay with the risk. But if you're like looking in for the first time.
VC's been around for how long? You know what I mean? They've been around for how many years? I mean, 25, 30 years?
30 plus. Yeah.
30, yeah.
Third generation now. Yeah.
I mean, I knew those guys back when I was out there. Right.
And Jeff's the new guy. And like, they're really doing those things. Yeah, but that's the funny part is that I don't want to discourage the lenders coming in. I don't. I really don't. And but at the same time, they need a little bit of common sense because there's so much opportunity in just the first world of firsts. And just like I always tell people this too. I said you have to measure your excitement, right? Yeah, with a healthy dash or a big old shot of Jägermeister first, and then consultation, right? But the other thing too is, and I'm going to tell people, we're starting a new series on this coming up into the fall about underwriting, right? I was in this business 15 years before I became an underwriter. I mean, you had to underwrite and pre-underwrite your deals and stuff. But I mean, to be a real underwriter, sit down at a desk all day long, just banging on files and looking for something. I was in for 15 years. And so don't think that after a weekend course, you're going to catch everything in an underwriting, because you're not. No. Yeah. Underwriters have been doing it for 25 years, still miss stuff. Yeah.
And so
that's the lost issue. Like, that's the problem today, I feel like, is that, and it actually is a good question for your people too, is like, the challenging issue in private lending right now, everyone is talking about this particular issue for the past 2 years, is fraud, right? Fraud is up. It's through the roof right now. Borrower fraud, vendor fraud, underwriting fraud. And so like you said, here's that, part of this, like, here's how you package your deal so you can get approvals from anyone you want. And they feel comfortable that they're not dealing with someone that's gonna defraud them, right? Like, and your audience should know, like, these guys are not only these guys, but these loans are getting re-underwritten once they get earmarked for sale, and
that's right.
And those buyers are really going deep because so much fraud out there, right? So they're very, very, like, I would call it cautious. So do yourselves a favor as a borrower, also, like, don't. And that's something that I would say, like, I don't know if Think is doing that, but like, you guys, your investors who they would maximize their opportunities that way.
Every year, for the past 4 seasons on the fund forum, right, at AAPL, we always did that. One of the biggest episodes that we did every single season was on fraud. It was one of the heaviest. No, you know what I mean. Yeah. Most well attended episodes that we ever did, or that we always do. And I think that now more than ever, there's a desperation that I didn't see before. And so when you already have such a hot topic item that's so easy to portray fraud on, like DSCR loans of people that, can move into the house and there's no lease police, and you hear all that stuff. You've got the element there and the opportunity, but then now you've got a desperate group of people, not all people. I mean, it's a small minority, but they're doing all of the fraud, right? Like they typically do. And so when they're jumping into this and really creating an environment for that, desperation pours gasoline on the fire, Well,
that's the scary part. So they don't know where it's coming from, right? So the lenders don't know where it's coming from because they can't necessarily isolate it, because that actor over here is just going to, and we don't have the same thing our friends in mortgage do. Like, there's that Lexus, and thing.
Right.
I mean, MPLA tried to do it, but it's really rudimentary in the context of, like, it doesn't solve the problem, because effectively you have defamation arguments there and libel arguments there. And like,
that's right.
But Lexus has this solution for the conventional mortgage world where they can interface with it. And we're telling our general counsel friends to start interfacing with that. But like, there needs to be more resource sharing in that respect. Hey, watch out. I think the lenders need to be talking to each other.
They do. And, it's the top, it's a small community, as you know, right?
It is. It's growing, but definitely a small community.
And our smaller field, right? We've all been around for a while. We've all been to the shows. We've all been to the golf tournaments. We've all been to the dinners together, right? And so, and people talk, and I think that lenders don't understand that, there's really, you as a borrower, you have reputational cachet too, because as you get into this, if you start doing those types of things, it follows you, right? It's not like where you dated a bunch of girls in Cincinnati and then you moved to Atlanta and nobody knows who you are. It's kind of like, the internet lives forever. And so if you start doing kind of wonky sideways deals and you're playing games and your submissions are kind of half-hearted, and this goes for brokers and all this stuff too, and there's a pattern that develops, your name is not going to be a great one and people are not going to take the chances on you, right?
Reputation is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
It just
It's business.
In our industry though, that it's still very fragmented. So like the guys who are in kind of the middle market and the lower tier new entries are the ones that are prime targets for these bad actors. Because eventually, yes, they're going to burn all the resources up top amongst top 10 shops that are national. And then they'll start picking off the guys that are local. And then you have a systemic problem. And it's really frustrating because it is held by it's really done by a handful of people.
It is.
And it's like, man, and they're not going to jail. They're not going they're not getting arrested. And it's like, it's really frustrating to watch. On the real estate investor side, is Think working with anybody on this, with folks in this respect? Like, here's how your best practices, or here's things to watch. Here's like lenders are going to start asking for this. You better be prepared, kind of thing.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up because we are Linda. Back to Linda. I talk to Linda probably a couple times a week, at least once a week, and so as a way to work with other people in the education and really the quality type of content. We do it with you guys too. We find out what you guys are working on is a way to not over cross-pollinate, but to be an additive, right? To the programs that you guys are doing and to the programs that AAPL is doing and some of the other people in our industry that we look to and respect to say, okay, you guys are doing it the right way, right? Because I think that there's certain programs, I won't mention any names, but there are certain programs that have really just watered down the message of education of certain types of lending, certain types of programs, certain types of this and that. Everybody kind of jumped on it for lack of an original thought, and they just flooded the market. And when there's too much noise, as you know, money hates noise, right? And it just starts to fall on deaf ears like static on a radio, right?
Yeah.
And so really picking one or two things, every kind of 6 months that we can really push out there. So to answer your question, absolutely. We've got a bunch of stuff that we're really trying to go out. Here's another thing that is massive, right? The lack of people or the lack of information or education to people that understand insurance, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's another industry that is, everybody needs it. You have to have it. It will save your bacon and the tomato and the toast and the lettuce it saves the whole BLT, right?
Especially nowadays. I mean, lenders are asking us all the time on forced place because borrowers don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't.
And so to be able to really educate people on proper insurance, what the differences between this policy and that policy are. I'll give everybody a free one right now because I'm dealing with this myself in my own home. Do you know how much mold usually covers, or your mold policy is on a homeowner's insurance policy? About 10 grand, about 11 grand.
Yeah.
If you get a mold situation, especially this happens down here in Florida, definitely in the southeast, all this kind of stuff where it's hot, humid, all that, mold runs rampant. And the reason why they only cover about 10 or 11 grand is because if they covered the true damage of mold, insurance companies go under, I swear. And then mold is kind of like a cancer, right? Mm-hmm. You find it once it's there.
Right.
Right. You can't, I think it might look a little cancery. We better cut this off. And so mold is the same way. So in your insurance policy, everybody, folks, if you're living in a hot, humid area of the country, call your homeowner's insurance representative and ask them what your mold coverage covers. Because if you have to take down, let's say, a bathroom and a pantry, you're looking at you're at $30,000, and you're thinking, oh, I've got insurance, I've got homeowners insurance, it's not going to cover it. Right. So really helping people understand course of construction, builders risk policies, where those things all go. And so we really want to get pushing on a large insurance initiative as well.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, that packages you well as a borrower, right? If you've got well-sophisticated, well-placed, sophisticated insurance, lenders love that. And it's woefully underdone. It costs a lot. That's probably one of the reasons why we don't see it very often. I mean, to be honest with you, that's cost sensitivity is a major issue right now. Like on both sides of the transaction.
Well, especially if you're at a 9100.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? A big fat insurance policy could be just the thing, so, don't have to put the Elvis paintings in. You can still get the value on the house without gold toilets, I promise you.
I've been saying, it's like, you guys just do it right, and like, if you can't do it right, then don't do it.
That's right.
But
that's right.
Everyone's stretching themselves.
I know.
It actually raises an interesting question is like, with the current landscape on private lending and how frothy it is and how competitive it is, like what's the energy like in the borrower community? Are they more confident than ever they can get their deals done without much help? Because, there's just the hyper competitive nature of in private lending, with both RTL and DSCR. I've always wondered what the borrower community thinks about this, right? And how they react to it.
So here's because we see it front and center. We get it in. We get the calls on it. We hear from people. They'll send in emails. We talk to borrowers referrals. Here's the general consensus. And lenders, I want you to listen to me when I say this, because I'm right on the street with these people. Everybody is fed up with I can do it, no problem, by talking to some untrained guy who's reading off a script in a cubicle in some type of, really kind of hard, full throttle call center sales shop, right? And they don't have any idea how they're going to actually get this loan done. But because their KPI needs to hit, they need to get their pipeline cranking.
Yeah. They have their quotas to meet on their consults. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And lenders, I'll tell you right now, people would rather have a fast no so that they can move on than to get held up and lose a non-refundable deposit or go all the way down and keep submitting docs and paying for appraisals and all this. So if it's a no, you guys, just tell them no. It doesn't mean you're not going to talk to them again. That you as a sales professional or somebody in this business, follow up with them, call them, see if they were able to place it. What can they do? Is there a way to restructure it? All of this stuff. That's number one. If it's going to be no, just stop telling me you can do stuff you can't do. Number one.
So borrowers they're realizing the runaround they're getting because these companies are getting huge.
Yeah.
Massive sales forces. Yeah.
Totally. And then secondly, I'll say this too. Lenders, start looking back into the power of regional, because you've got, certain people that are, certain offices are in both coasts, central United States, all this kind of stuff. But borrowers really want to know that the person that they're dealing with, if they're borrowing for something in Las Vegas, they don't want to talk to a guy in Atlanta. They want to know that somebody's out there, knows the Vegas market, understands that, because if somebody's pitching a deal to a lender, and like, no, it's a great area, and the other person, and they could be the best professional in the world. I'm not saying that it has anything to do with their professionalism, their ethics, or anything like that, but they just can't, if they don't know the area, right? They might not be as enthusiastic about the possibility of really an area that's gentrifying or the values of houses that are coming up or whatever. So lenders, I might suggest to you all that you start to embrace that regional market, because when you and I came in, Kevin, it was all the way over here. You had to know a guy in this certain area, and it was 5 counties around that office, and the pendulum ball was all the way out here, and then it came swinging all the way through over here. And there's guys doing deals in Madagascar, for crying out loud, right?
It's just shifted completely.
It's coming back, and
it was more common to see local, regional. Then everyone tried to go national. Now everyone's national. It's like, because especially with the correspondence stuff, they're basically just brokering everything.
That's right. That's right.
At the same time, I'll give credit where credit's due. A lot of these top 10 shops, if you look at them on like the Elementix top 10 or the Cost top 10, many of them are regional. They have offices.
That's right.
Local reps. They kind of run like a bank, right? And
that's right.
Like, I'll give Renovo a lot of credit. They do it that way, and that's
they do.
And that's really useful, right? Because now hey, there's the Boston team, there's the Dallas team, there's the Austin team, there's the Miami team, there's the Tampa team. Like they know who to go to. And that's great from a borrower standpoint. Yeah.
I mean, I was in Frisco, right? He was the only guy in the Dallas area. Dallas is huge, you guys. It's
massive.
I lived there. It's massive. He was that guy. And so everybody knew it. And he had a really robust and very talented staff behind him there.
Yeah.
But, they didn't need 57 John Shipleys.
Right.
And so I think that for those of you that aren't strong in some regional areas, but if you look at your sales and you're seeing that you're getting an uptick of certain metros that are pumping a lot of loans through your front door, you might want to invest in some local cachet of somebody that talks like them, grew up there, understand.
That's a real thing in a lot of markets, like the Colorado, especially parts of Colorado. All the top shops are actually local. Like they're really local.
Right.
And it's fascinating how that, like everyone complains about how hard it is to break into Colorado because it's such an insular, hyper local market. Same with like Seattle, a lot of like local presence there seems to dominate. And it's funny because you see a lot of the big shops trying to compete. But that raises an interesting question because you have this like dichotomy right now in the sector, and I'm wondering what the take is because you have low cost, high leverage from the national shops. They can execute that. They can execute. They can get that. They can get that 90-10, that 100% financing, right. Low cost, super low rate, and maybe the local presence or the execution may not be to complete at spec to the local guys who are going to be super fast, super high service, super high touch. And then you have this weird dichotomy because a lot of folks keep arguing that service is more important than price, and they tout the success in that respect. But at the same time, the number one shop in the country is also the most low cost, like low interest rate, high leverage shop in the country. So it's like, this is a very strange dichotomy.
Well, because I'll tell you, I think it's something that you guys are really embracing over there now too, is the split between, debt funds or trust deeds, as it would be on the West Coast, or private mortgages around the rest of the country. And I think that you're going to start to see a lot of people, regional guys like you just mentioned, that I think borrowers are willing to pay a little bit more to be able to know the guy there locally, and that services 5 to 7 counties around his office, right? And I think there's something to be said for going back to basics a little bit. And I'm glad you guys are starting that series because it's a brilliant idea. And it's a way that, that's how private money or hard money or whatever you want to call it was done before these big, the big nationalization of it, right?
But that's the sentiment with the community that you're working with.
They would rather be able to get a hold of somebody, be able to count on somebody, especially in some of the these smaller, very high moving areas. Where houses are flipping over, where people are relocating still. And here's the thing: I'll say the 5 for 5 guys in the areas on the flips where everybody's looking for, and this is what the lenders are looking for. Is we've run through that, and this is what everybody's trying to find these houses. At the school district, there's a 4 or 5 or higher, right? Within 5 miles of the front door of that property is a sit-down restaurant. It could be a Chili's, Applebee's, but just not a McDonald's. Like someplace you can take your wife for dinner, right, or your spouse or whatever. The next thing is going to be a major grocery store within 5 miles, right? Next thing is going to be creature comforts within inside of 5 miles. So you could have a Walmart, but if you're still 13 miles away from a nail salon or a place to cut your hair, it's still a little bit more difficult. It's not going to move as quickly and gain as high value. And then lastly is if there's 5 or more houses for sale in a tract, not in the general zip code, obviously, but in a tract within 3, 4, or 5 streets, not a great area because you're competing against, everybody's competing against themselves to offload this property you're going to have to discount your house, right? To get to that profit margin, because if somebody was trying to buy a house that badly, they would have picked up one of the other ones that quick. So that's what they're looking for. But the lenders, if you can get into where you've got a real local thing, you're there at the RIA, you're there at the, whatever, I don't know, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, whatever, and you're known for that and you're in that community, that is the one thing, lenders, listen to me please, that I'm seeing be the most effective for really gaining momentum, to separate yourselves from the WeLendPrivateMoney.com, LLC.com.
I see.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging dichotomy today. I'm having more and more trouble reconciling it just because of how.
What are you seeing? Where are you seeing guys that are?
Well, that's the challenge. I don't know how to reconcile it, right? Because the local lenders that do all the things that you're talking about, right? The regional guys, like, we're still getting our ass kicked. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, it's like, well, who are those people? Let's profile them. And there's like, and it seems the general consensus is that the business they're losing is the high quality borrower, a super high quality institutional grade borrower is just hey, we don't need any of that stuff. We just need the best price possible because we're really, really well equipped. Like they're super well equipped. They do tons of volume. Like number one, kind of scatter site developer or flipper in the area.
Sure. Yeah.
And so and the frustration that they're telegraphing to me is like, we're great at getting them in the door on like the early stage of their life cycle, but once they get to a certain size, they outgrow us and they go to the big shops. And these are big shops. These are like comparatively speaking big shops, but they just can't compete with the larger like top 5 firms, right? And so you're seeing this like large dichotomy in borrower profile, and it's very interesting because everyone wants those high quality borrowers.
Sure.
But they're becoming harder and harder to come by. And so, yeah, but at the same time, right, they still win on the things they're talking about, right? The business is reliant on that. So
I think you have to give more to your clients that are going to borrow money from you than just, hey, we've got some stuff. You've got to be a real true kind of business partner to it, right? You've got to help them set into what they're, you've got, options to where you can refer the blue collar or the skilled trades guys out, right? And so that it goes back to what we talked about earlier of I will not let you fail. I've got a real estate agent that can pre-list this thing for you. We can get it sold. It might be in with some relocation companies. You have to be more than just, here's my interest rate and point term.
Right. But that's what you got. You really dominate because of those additional multi-layered value add to the borrowers, and they become partners, true partners with their lenders, and so that's with borrowers. That's a really great business model, but they're also benefiting from the fact that their local market is super insular, and if they did the same model in Dallas, Texas, they probably get their ass kicked, right? Because
they would.
It's just super competitive in Dallas, right? And
but in Dallas, you gotta live there for 5 years before you get invited to your first barbecue.
That too.
They even told me that, right?
But even here in Southern California, it's so competitive down here, right?
You better believe it.
Bay Area too. So it's a very interesting time right now. I just feel like the borrower community is so diverse, right? And everyone is obsessing about customer acquisition right now on the lending side. So,
well, I think it'll smooth out. I really do. I start to see. I think as inventory starts to come online,
that's really hope.
It will. And so I think that there's going to be I think 27 is going to be real interesting, and I think there's going to be a lot of benefits to it. And so the guys are going to make money are the guys that have always made money, and they know how to make money going up the down staircase, right?
And I keep telling all the balance sheet guys out there, like, just be patient, survive. When your time comes, it will be like drinking through a fire hose because it's going to be like going all over again. There's going to be quiet, and you're going to have to pick it all up. So,
that's good. That's good.
So what's on the docket for Think, for Scott, going into the rest of the year? We're kind of in the middle of the year now. It's 2026. It's June 30th of 2026. We're smack dab middle of the year. Fourth's right around the corner. So what's the plan for Think? What's the plan for Scott going into the rest of the year?
Well, thank you for asking, because I think we've got a lot of optimism and hope of the new programs that we're going to be doing, because I think that we're building upon the already excellent reputation that it has, right? And so with over 4,000 pieces of educational content in our library, I think that we're just going to keep adding to that. I really am excited about Think Business. I'm excited about the educational platforms for some of the nooks and cranny nuances of this business, like insurance, right? I think that's things that we're going to try to make it fun, right? We're going to make it appealing. We're going to make it very approachable so that people consider things without doing death by PowerPoint, right? So they're considering things about their business. I love this industry, and we're going to share that and continue to share that along with everything that's kind of going forward. And really, I think it's all about being able to inspire people to be able to reach out and mentor and start to bring up this younger generation. Because as some of these old cats rotate out of here, it's going to take guys like you and I that are going to say, okay, listen, I'm not, if you're interested in doing this the right way or whatever, we'll take you the way, but you've got to be as committed as I am. And so just ensuring that work ethic and really trying to expand upon the programs that we offer, because you've got to grow or you're going to die. So and for me, kids are playing sports like crazy. I might actually even coach golf in the fall. Shh, don't tell anybody. At a local high school here.
Nice.
And so, yeah, right. So I don't know, man. I'm having a ball with the youth sports thing and all that stuff. So we're having fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a 4-year 6 on my golf team. So
Yeah.
the worst player on my team.
That's okay. You have 4 years though, man. You know what I mean? That's commitment, baby.
4 years of
Good
just,
for you.
having fun on the golf course when your score don't count,
That's it. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, if you're getting free golf, who cares? There you go. Tear it up.
We play, our home course was Dad Miller in Orange County. And so,
Oh, was it really?
yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's one of the most ghetto courses ever. Hitting off mats is awesome.
Yeah, but you know what? That ball runs for 4 miles in that fairway, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
like, it's like hitting it down John Wayne Airport right there at Orange County. It just keeps going. So it's good.
Well, you know what? We're already out of time. I can't believe it's already over. Scott, it's so much fun to talk to you.
Thank you, Ken.
Tell our audience how they can find you, how they can find more about Think.
Sure. So Think Realty, just like it sounds.com. Same website as it always has been. If you want to reach out to me personally, it's scott@thinkrealty.com. All the phone numbers and everything's right there on the website where you can find, we're starting to get all the broadcast on stuff put up into one kind of library. So that's coming too. So there's a lot of really cool stuff, but yeah, just keep checking the website and all of our social media, for anything that you need to know. And you'll always, if you at a show and you see Kevin, I'm probably not too far behind trying to catch him. Going, Kevin, I got to ask you a question. and all of that stuff. So yeah. Be good.
All right, guys. That's all the time we have for this episode of Lender Lounge with yours truly, Kevin Kim. Thank you so much for your time today, Scott. I hope our audience enjoyed it. And this is Kevin Kim signing off.
Thank you.
Subscribe to Lender Lounge on your favorite podcast platform and visit our website, fortrelaw.com, to learn more about how we can help you scale.